to 7 people who will end up by the 3rd day of a 10-day retreat, they will end up being switched over to what? Forgiveness. Because why? Because there's a blockage that occurs. There's a barrier thing that comes up in some people, that they can't just naturally produce the loving kindness and just let it flow. The rest of the people will be just fine. You can I graph them on a chart, and they go tick, 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 tick in the development. But these people that come and they say, I had it, and initially I could do it, and then it just went away. It wouldn't stay. Something is there. Or they come and they might say, I have this thing right here, and it's just blocking me. There's a feeling. I'll tell you something about meditation. I was at a retreat in Malaysia, and I stopped and said to the whole people, I had finished interviewing about 30 people. I had tears in my eyes when I sat down to do the Dhamma talk. And I said to them, I just want to say thank you. And they looked at me kind of funny, and I said, no, I'm saying thank you because when you do this sort of meditation, you are courageous. Why are you courageous? I had to think of this, and I think in images, and what it is we're all walking around with this gate in our head, and it's locking in everything that's happened in our life like this. And you start to do this meditation, and the gate gets looser and looser and looser. And what's happening is you're going to let all the junk or the rubbish fall out. And lots of times it happens just naturally. But sometimes when people have bad things that happen, it could be abuse as a child, it could be domestic violence, it could be a breakup, it could be a death, it could be anything is in there and stuck. It's in there too. And where we store this is right at the base of our skull. I was talking to a neurologist friend of mine. This is right here at the base of your skull. That's where the headache starts from. See, when you start sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair about something from the past, this is where it starts to hurt and you get this overwhelming feeling from. And what you're doing is you're learning how to open the gate and let this all fall out. When it falls out, then you can do any kind of meditation really freely. But this is what's stuck. There's something stuck for us. It happens because you broke precepts, or it happens because a lot of people in today's world, they don't take these precepts seriously. We don't take words seriously. We don't think when we say a vow out loud just for fun, anything can happen. We don't understand the power of words anymore. We don't live in that time anymore. But it's a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. Don't play with it if you find grandma's little vow about something. Be very careful if you find it, that you don't go around repeating it without knowing what you're doing. Anyway, we're very brave to practice any form of meditation because we're loosening all this up and we're trying to purify and retrain our mind. Okay, where's that microphone? Do that again. See, here's what's happening. You didn't think I was really going to stay away from the whiteboard, did you? Okay. Whoops. Oh, it's here? Okay. Oh, it's there? Okay. Okay. See, what's happening is when you... Remember I told you about the Dvaita Vitakka Sutta, and I told you he was experimenting, the Buddha was, as the Bodhisattva, he was experimenting with unwholesome and with wholesome mind states, right? He was trying to see what would work. And he realized at that point, and this is before he was enlightened, and then when he goes on afterwards, his quest has to do with... His quest actually has to do with wanting to find out what is suffering. There is suffering. And that's an open-ended sentence. There is suffering. So he wants to discover what the suffering exactly is. I got curious once, and there's one sutta that tells you what sorrow is, what lamentation is, what pain, what grief, and what despair is. It's all there in 141. It's there, a paragraph for each one. So we don't even have to figure this out again. It's all right there, okay? And he sets up right effort for a reason. The right effort when he's going to make sure that the right effort is operating in the way I told you, to recognize the unwholesome, let the unwholesome go, bring up the wholesome, and then keep the wholesome going, okay? He's creating a washing machine for your mind. The kids, when they were on the farm, they'd go outside sometimes. They wore white. And they went out, and everything gets dirty, and they come back, and I put it in the washing machine. I put the right amount of soap and the right amount of bleach in it. It comes out white again, and then we start all over again. Hopefully, if you do this with your children enough, they learn how to do it themselves by the time they go to college. Okay. But anyway, so I want to show you something about the Four Noble Truths. So you have the questions are the suffering. He tries to find out what the suffering is. And he does a lot of research with that. Then he realizes exactly when he sees what it is, then he has to figure out the cause of the whole thing. And he's working to find the cause, okay? And then he wants to find a cessation. This is the job, to find a cessation. And the illusion we have when I started with Buddhism was, I was a Christian for 50 years. To get to heaven, you have to die. You see, that was it. That was the big thing. You try to clean up your life, you go to confession, you do all these things as a good Christian, but to get to heaven, you got to die, okay? But here, when he's talking about cessation, he's just not talking about Nibbana. He's found something else. And the thing that he found for the sensation were these 4 steps of right effort. And these 4 steps of right effort are the driving force that was under the original meditation. No matter what kind we talk about, Chan, Vedanta, I don't care what it is, these things have to be functioning in there somehow for it to really start working. And Anapanasati, everything, okay? So what's happening here is you've got the washing machine for the brain, for the mind. So he's trying to have, it's a purification system. Okay? It's a purification system. And it's a retraining program for your brain. I didn't find the modern science and research for this until last year. And I just stumbled on it one day because somebody told me about neural pathways, and I went in, and then I found whole sets of little, how you get it on summaries of the research. So when you're looking up the development of new neural pathways for the brain, you're going to stumble on a whole bunch of stuff about how you change your habits. Once you open your way to purification, then to do that, you have to have a system to clean it, and then you have to have a way to retrain the brain. And his way was exactly what they're showing you. Somebody's discovering for the first time, okay? And it was already discovered, okay? And he's showing you how you have this 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. And these 2 are useless, the top 2, which was to recognize, I'll give you an example of this. Recognize the problem and to release it, just release it. And this was to bring up the wholesome, okay? And this was to keep it going, keep developing it. It's what it says, really. Keep developing it, as the translation says, developing it. Until it's automatic. You have a lot of things in Buddhism that are told to you, and then as you develop, you get to a level, and all of a sudden they become automatic. Do you know faculties? 5 faculties? Why does this have, when somebody said to me, why do we have 5 faculties? Fem quoi? I do that. So, faith, energy, mindfulness, the concentration or collectedness, which is a balanced concentration. It's a productive level of concentration. Concentration and wisdom. Now, This one is faculty. And so what makes it turn into powers? And you look on the 37 requisites of enlightenment, it's the same thing. Ditto, 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 ditto. So somebody says, why do they do that? Because it's power when it comes to being automatic. But when you're first doing these, concerned with these pieces in your training, in your meditation, you are doing this. You're conscious of it. You're checking whether you need more energy, mindfulness, sharpen your mindfulness, balance your concentration, figure out where you're going to develop the wisdom, what direction the wisdom is coming. So faith in Buddhism is just faith in the Buddha. If you can't commit yourself to the idea when you start, this man must have found something. You see? He found something. Then you shouldn't bother. Don't get all messed up about that. If you come into it and you really want to know what happened, you have to turn yourself over to, I'm going to take it on his word. 2,600 year must have found something. Look how far it went all over the place. So he must have found something. So you come in with that. I didn't have anything to lose. I had lost everything at the time I started, so it's another story. Okay, and so the energy is how much energy you're putting into your meditation as you're working. As you're sitting, as you're walking, how long can you stay in there? The energy applied also to the mindfulness. How long can you keep the observation going? The observation and the level of the concentration. So when we have talks about the hindrances and all the remedies he had, basically his remedy was abandon them, relinquish them, let them go. We have developed a huge disagreement about that. So the commentary went in the direction of let's destroy them, annihilate them, eradicate them, suppress them, keep them from coming up, stop them. Okay, and then we have the texts, and they're going like, release them, relinquish them, abandon them, don't engage them, leave them alone. Remember anicca. What happened? I cannot tell you. I don't know. But if you try that, you're going to find out about the food for the hindrance. That's the whole thing. And if you understand what the food is, you can stop the army from coming by cutting off the supply route. And then they don't come after you anymore. Why? Because you're not going to engage them. Because you're interested with what's happening inside. In this case, you are interested in sending the wish to the friend. And it's not a big, you don't make it a big production, make it a very light-hearted and smile. And the more you smile, usually what he'll say to you, you're not smiling enough. He'll just say that to you, you're not smiling enough, smile more. And I told you the student is bound to come in the beginning of the retreat and say to us, I don't feel like smiling. And he's going to sit there and say, I don't care. Do it anyway, because I told you, you don't have to feel like smiling. You have these two muscles, and they are hooked to the two lobes of the brain, and it's an operational thing. That's all it is, an operational thing. But the fun part is, if you weren't smiling, you see, my background is in certified personnel consultant work for big companies and stuff. You're not going to get the job unless you're smiling. I know that. From the bottom of the barrel in manufacturing to the top CEO, you're not going to get the job unless you can come in and keep going with a smile. Those are the ones you want for your company. That's who you want to have working for you. And you have to always remember that. I don't feel like smiling. I don't care. It's fine, okay? So what you look here, this is what's so dangerous about the changing of the Four Noble Truths. He already mentioned it once. There is suffering, there is a cause, there is a cessation. Perfect. Open-ended statements. They're statements, but they're open-ended, aren't they? So I can go find out what this is, find out what that is, find out what that is. And then path, and use the path to make the whole thing work. But when we change around, when we fool around with this, we're diluting the Dhamma. It's going to go away because the teenagers are too smart. So what did we change it to? How do I know this? You just go to the library and get the recent books that are being written, and you'll find it. But I found it because they came from Chicago with an orientation booklet for a hospital system with 35,000 employees. And they were teaching the employees in a section in the handbook about all kinds of religions for terminally ill people that they were going to take care of. We want you to understand when you go into the room of a Hindu or a Jew or a Christian what their religion is so that you know how to treat them with dignity. You got that? So they asked us, they wanted to have a servant leadership story for each religion, and they came to us to ask for a servant leadership story. What is a servant leadership story? If you're a leader, you are expected to show the people who are working for you what's right to do. And in this case, how you treat a patient. And so they had an example in Hinduism and all these different things. They wanted one from us. So we gave them the story about the monk who was dying. Do you know the story about the monk that was dying of the boils? And monks had left him alone in the kuti, and the Buddha came and he was furious. He was, well, about as furious as a Buddha can be. But he went in and he said, you can't do this. And this was the establishment point of you may not abandon your brothers. You have to take care of them until they die. This was the point. And he went in and he picked up the man and he took him to the river and he bathed him and he brought him back and he had them clean the bed and he put them there and then he stayed with him until he died. That was a servant leadership story. In the process of this, he sent me a copy of where this was going to be printed. And are you ready? Okay? Instead of there is suffering, we're going to change this to, and now just think of your 13-year-old daughter or son who's about to consider going to the temple to learn something about Buddhism. Life is suffering. My God news, if you get them there one time, they're not going back. They're going to the mall. They're going to the technical store. They're going to go somewhere else. They're not going to spend their Saturday with their friends listening to you talk about all of life is suffering. Because they're just not interested. That was the first bad one. Second one is, the cause of suffering is desire. You're 13. Remember, you're 13. All the things that you desired when you were 13. All right, so you think about this. Come on, think about this. This is crazy. We don't know where this started. We don't know who the first genius was that said this out loud. I would just like to go, Okay, the next one is the cessation of craving, of desire. The cessation of the suffering comes when you desire nothing. What happened to Chanda? I'm sitting there saying, what happened to Chanda? I ran to the dictionary, and the old dictionary was fine, wholesome desire. I went to the new dictionary and went, oh my gosh, it's just desire now. They're changing the dictionaries. I'm there, what's happening? Do you have wholesome desire for your children to succeed? Do you have wholesome desire for a good marriage? Do you have wholesome desire for a good job? Do you want good grades in college? Do you want to succeed at your driving test? It's on and on and on. This was not real. So having that happen, it caused a big problem for people. Pardon me?
We need fresh air. It's stuffy in here.
Oh, it's stuffy. Can we open the door? Maybe?
I didn't bring my
I'm sorry?
Didn't bring my glasses. Do you have some?
Oh, not with me, but I can go get them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You said I didn't bring them back.
They're downstairs.
Oh, in your room? Or
Yeah.
in what?
Right by the bed.
Okay.
In my bag. Why don't I see more smiles? I mean, that's what the meditation's about, right? Look at how it makes your mind feel. Sometimes when there's a retreat going on, some people, they have some past thing happening. And they get very highly emotional. And they'll come to me and they'll be crying and I say, well, what am I supposed to do with that? And my answer is, well, smile. But I don't feel like smiling. Okay, then laugh. But it's not funny. And of course, when they say something like that, it makes me laugh. And as soon as I laugh, they start laughing. And then I say, how does your mind feel now? You see, this morning I told you, I want you to smile, I want you to laugh, I want you to have fun. Why? Because it uplifts your mind. Laughter, unfortunately, everybody that does meditation, they're so serious and they make their mind heavy. And they make their awareness very slow. The thing with laughter is, let's say you have anger in your mind. Okay, who's mad? I'm mad. Who doesn't like it? I don't like it. I'm really, really upset. Okay, you're taking everything personally at that time, right? So, what to do? When you laugh at how crazy your mind can be, you go from, I'm mad and I don't like it, to, well, it's only this anger. Now, do I want to carry this anger around with me? No, let it go. Laughing with yourself about how crazy your mind can be is the fastest way to let go of a hindrance that I know of. And why do I tell you I want you to have fun? Well, when you were in school and you had a favorite class, what kind of grades did you get in the class? Good grades, right? Because you had fun. Okay, you learn with an uplifted mind. That's one of the biggest problems with a lot of different kinds of meditation that's being taught right now. When I was in Burma doing so much meditation, the teacher would tell me, "You're not trying hard enough." And so I would try harder. Now, the last 3-month retreat I did in Burma, the first time I was there, I went in the first day for an interview, and the teacher said, "How much are you sleeping?" And I said, I go to bed at 11 o'clock, get up at 3 o'clock. That's standard. "Why are you sleeping so much?" Okay. So I went to bed at midnight, got up at 2 o'clock, and I did that for 3 months. Not recommended. It took me 6 weeks to recover after I'd been there for 3 months. So being over serious with your meditation causes you to have a lot of unmindfulness. Okay, you remember this morning I said mindfulness is remembering to observe how mind's attention moves. But when you get caught and start taking things personally, well, you're causing yourself suffering. And it's big, and it'll last for a long time. Now, I was talking about this morning. Huh? Okay. I was talking this morning about the difference between one-pointed concentration and what I'm showing you, which is decidedly different. Now, one-pointed concentration, your mind is on one thing. Okay? And when you get to a certain place in the concentration, it suppresses any hindrances from coming up. And you get into a state of bliss. You get into a very wonderful, deep state. I'm not saying that it's wrong or it's bad. It's just this is how it happens. But when you get out of that state, because your hindrances have been suppressed, there's no real personality development. Okay, when you get out of that state, you still have the same amount of hindrances arise, you still have the same way of doing things over and over that cause suffering. The one extra step of relaxing changes the whole dynamic of the meditation, because it doesn't allow your mind to get so deep that it suppresses things. Now, when I was talking to you this morning, I was talking about how hindrances arise and why they arise. Okay? So every time you use that 6 R's, you use that relaxed step, you're purifying your mind. Why? Because you're letting go of craving. You're letting go of that tension and tightness that you don't normally notice. It's not big, it's not massive tightness in your head. It's a subtle tightness in your head. You have to be able to recognize that. But when you do, it stops you from going deeper and having the concentration suppress the hindrances. Don't sit with your arms crossed, please. When you sit like this is a thinking posture. You only hear about 60% of what's being said. Okay? You need to have openness. So, this is the main difference of what the Buddha taught and what was being taught at the time of the Buddha. This one little extra step of relax. It changes the entire meditation. You know, a lot of people ask me, well, do I have to do loving kindness? Well, one of the reasons I like to teach loving kindness is because your progress in loving kindness is faster than any other kind of meditation you can do. I know in Thailand they have a crystal ball meditation with the Buddha inside, and you're supposed to visualize that, and he's sitting with and you go very deep. Now, if you would add the relax step, you can still use that same meditation. But with the relax step, it changes the entire process. There's a lot of talk about craving in the suttas and how you need to let it go. But I spent 12 years walking around trying to find out somebody that would give me the definition. How am I supposed to recognize it? How do I let it go? So luckily I found the way. And I'm going to show you that by reading this sutta to you. This sutta is 111. It's called the Dhammapada Sutta. And the English translation is one by one as they occur. Okay? Now this is a description that the Buddha gives of Sariputta and his practice. And I'll show you some real interesting things about this as we go along. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living in Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathan Pendika's Park. There he addressed the monks thus. Monks, venerable sir, they replied, the Blessed One said this. Monks, Sariputta is wise. Now, anytime you hear the word wise or wisdom in Buddhist texts, it has a specific kind of definition. Wise or wisdom is referring to two different things. It's seeing things impersonally, anatta, and it's seeing how the links of dependent origination actually work. This is why Sariputta was second to the Buddha in wisdom, because he really explored this very much. Sariputta has great wisdom. Sariputta has wide wisdom. Sariputta has joyous wisdom. Joyous wisdom, think about that. What does that mean? That means having a light mind, doesn't it? Not one that's heavy that pulls you down into the mud. A light mind that's very alert. Sariputta has quick wisdom. Sariputta has keen wisdom. Sariputta has penetrative wisdom. During half a month, monks, Sariputta gained insight into states one by one as they occurred. Now, Sariputta's insight into states one by one as they occurred was this. Here, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, Sariputta entered upon and abided in the first jhana. Now remember what I said about the jhana. The jhana is a level of understanding. Okay? It's not a level of concentration, which is accompanied by thinking and examining thought with joy and happiness born of seclusion. And the states in the first jhana. The thinking, the examining thought, the joy, the happiness, the unification of mind. Now we get into something that is very interesting. The 5 aggregates and the 4 foundations of mindfulness are the same thing. Different ways of describing the same thing. You have a body, you have a body. You have feeling, you have feeling. You have perception. Feeling and perception are always together, so they're conjoined. You have mind. You have mind. You have dhammas. Okay, you have sankharas. They are dhammas. So the 4 foundations and the 5 aggregates are different ways of describing the same thing. Now, we're talking about being in the first jhana. Now, when they start describing, they don't use the word body here, they use the word contact. And that makes it consistent all the way through into the arupa jhanas. And so they kind of changed that. But it's still referring to the body. Feeling, perception, formations, mind. Okay? While you're in the first jhana, you are experiencing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. That's different than what you generally hear. Okay, the enthusiasm, decision, energy, mindfulness, equanimity, and attention. These states were defined by him one by one as they occurred. Known to him those states arose, known they were present, known they disappeared. So right there you're seeing anicca while you're in the jhana. Okay, it's starting to all kind of fold in together now, isn't it? He understood thus, so indeed these states, not having been come into being, having been, they vanish. Regarding those states, he abided unattracted. He didn't hold on to anything. Unrepelled. He didn't push anything away. Independent. He saw the impersonal nature of this process. Detached, free, dissociated, another words for describing the anatta, the impersonal nature. with a mind rid of barriers. Now, when you get into the jhana, your mindfulness is good and you don't have any hindrances arising. But when your mindfulness gets a little bit weak, or you get distracted for some reason or other, then you have a hindrance arise. And when a hindrance arises, you're not in the jhana at that time. Okay? He understood there's an escape beyond this. And with the cultivation of that attainment, he confirmed that there is. When you get into the first jhana, you have the potential in this lifetime to experience nibbana. Your mind is pure. Your mind is with your spiritual friend and radiating loving kindness to them. Okay? So you have the potential to experience nibbana. Again, with the stilling of thinking and examining thought. Sariputta entered upon and abided in the second jhana. Every jhana is like a new kind of meditation. It's different because you have different things arising while you go into the different jhanas. This is a very natural process. This happens by itself. You don't make it happen. If you try to make it happen, it's not going to happen, and you're going to get frustrated because you're using too much effort, too much energy, and you cause yourself a lot of suffering. And the states in the second jhana, which has self-confidence, stillness of mind, without thinking and examining thought, with joy and happiness born of collectedness. Now, when you get to the second jhana, this is called the noble silence jhana. When you first start out, you're making a wish and you're verbalizing the wish in your mind. When you get to the second jhana, you don't verbalize anymore. You don't say, may you be happy. Now you just bring up the feeling of loving kindness, the feeling of the wish. Okay, so it's noble silence now. No more thinking and examining thought. When you get into the second jhana, the joy you experience is much stronger. Now, there's 5 different kinds of joy that people can experience. Okay, 3 kinds of joy are experienced by anybody when the conditions are right for it to arise. You can have joy arise in a lot of different situations. The first kind of joy is, it's a happy feeling, but you have goosebumps. Okay, it lasts for a little while, then it goes away. The next kind of joy that arises is like a flash of lightning. It's really intense, but it's only there for a short period of time and fades away. It's real nice when it happens. The next kind of joy is like standing in the ocean and just having a wave of joy come over you. And then another wave comes over you. It's real nice. Now, the thing with joy is, always after joy arises, there's a short period of tranquility. You feel really peaceful and calm. As you go through these different kinds of joy, the length of time that tranquility arises after the joy has faded away starts to be for longer, more peaceful, more calm. Now, these three kinds of joy happen for anybody when the conditions are right. Doesn't have anything to do with any religion. Doesn't have anything to do with that or not. It's just when you feel joyful, you'll have one of these three kinds of joy arise. The next two kinds of joy only arise through mental development. The next kind of joy that arises, the kind that we're talking about in the first and second jhana, is called uplifting joy. You feel very light in your body and light in your mind. And it is a happy feeling. There is some excitement with it. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is why I've been sitting. I've been looking for something like that for a long time. When you get to the second jhana, you feel much lighter in your mind and in your body. You feel so light that it's like floating. I've had students that had come to me and they say, I can't sit under these kind of fans because I'll come up and it'll hit me in the head. But you feel very light, and it's a very happy feeling. But that's going to last for a period of time, and then it's going to fade away. And when it fades away, the feeling of tranquility is going to be there. And you're going to feel more comfortable in your mind and in your body than you felt before. Okay, and this is called happiness. You're going to be able to stay with your object of meditation for a longer period of time. And your mind is going to be unified. It's just going to be very nice, and it's going to stay there for a period of time. But your mindfulness is going to get weak, and then you're going to have another hindrance come up. Now you're starting to teach yourself what to do when a hindrance arises. Now you start using the 6 R's more skillfully. You recognize, that's a thought. Okay, my mind just went off and started thinking about things 1,000 miles away, and that's fine. So you've recognized, then you let it be. You don't stay with that distraction, and relax. Then smile. Bring that smiling, pure mind that you've let go of the craving back to your object of meditation. One of the things that surprised me about this kind of meditation, and at first I couldn't believe it, was how fast you can experience these kind of things. You can get into the first jhana, sometimes the first day of your retreat. You feel that joy come up, and you feel peaceful and calm, and you start to get a lot more confidence. Oh, I must be doing something right because this is coming up by itself. This is good. And then you get into the second jhana. Now you've let go of your verbalizing the wish. Now you just feel the wish and put that feeling in your heart and surround your friend with it. And the joy you experience is much stronger. And it's really nice. As, again, this happens by itself. Okay? It's not that you're doing it. If you try to make it happen, that is going to cause you all kinds of problems. And then you'll come and complain to me that the 6 R's don't work. Well, because you try too hard. See, that's the biggest problem that I have with people that are experienced with meditation, is they've been taught to try hard. And you look at people in a retreat and they have a sour face because they're trying way too hard. The teacher I was telling you that he told me I was sleeping too much when I was taking 4 hours sleep, he came to me one day and he said, there are 50,000 seconds in a day. And I want you to note 50,000 times. Oh my. I only stayed with that teacher for 1 year. He was tough. And it wasn't worth being around somebody that was pushing me as hard, because I'm a dumb American. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. He's the master. I'll follow what you say. But it was really not so nice. Anyway, when you get to the second jhana, you start having more and more confidence in yourself that, yeah, I'm seeing that this really does work, and it makes you feel good because you are progressing, and it's only in a day or two. And you start getting more and more confidence as you are teaching yourself how to do the meditation. See, I'm not the teacher. You are the teacher. You're teaching yourself. I'm the guide. I'm making sure you stay on the path. That's my job. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm not here to be your guru. I'm here to show you how you can do this for yourself and carry it with you when you get done with the meditation. And the states in the second jhana: the self-confidence, the joy, the happiness, the unification of mind, the contact, feeling, perception, formations, and mind. There's the 4 foundations of mindfulness while you're in the second jhana. See, these two are interconnected. That was one of the problems with the commentary that everybody seems to follow, which is the Visuddhimagga, and it divides jhana practice and vipassana. And there's all kinds of misunderstanding because of that. Because when I ran across this sutta, the first time I ran across it, I recognized how incredible it was that the vipassana and the samatha were intertwined. They weren't separate practices. It's just one practice. Okay, the zeal or the enthusiasm, the decision, the energy, mindfulness, equanimity, and attention. These states were defined by him one by one as they occurred. Now you're seeing the impermanent nature of everything, because these things come up one thing at a time. They don't come up all together. So you can recognize these. Known to him, those states arose, known they were present, known they disappeared. He understood there's still more to do. When you get to the second jhana, you're starting to get into the swing of it. You're starting to get more comfortable doing it, and you have more confidence. But you know, okay, let's keep going. This is good stuff. I'm learning all kinds of interesting things. And with the cultivation of that attainment, he confirmed that there is more to do. Again, with the fading away of joy, Sariputta abided in equanimity, mindful and fully aware, still feeling happiness with the body. He entered upon and abided in the third jhana, on account of which noble ones announce he has a pleasant abiding, who has equanimity and is mindful. I had one student that had been teaching meditation for 20 years, and he came and he started practicing with me. And one day he walks in for the interview, because I see everybody every day, and his face is really lit up, and he's really, really happy. So I said, "What happened?" He said, "For 20 years I've been reading the suttas, and I didn't know what a pleasant abiding is. And I just had a pleasant abiding." Well, good. Better late than never, right? Now, what happens when you get into the third jhana is the joy fades away. It's too coarse a feeling for your mind now. You're starting to calm down more. And you're starting to stay with your spiritual friend for longer and longer periods of time. Now, when I say longer periods of time, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, like that. But it's really nice when you do that. You really feel good. Your mind becomes very tranquil, nice. No disturbance in your mind. You're just staying with your friend and radiating that happy feeling to them. And your mind has more balance in it. That's what equanimity is a balanced mind. So let's say you hear a sound, and it's a big sound, like a trash can falling over or something like that. Now, before, your mind would wobble and go to it. But when you get to this state, you recognize that a sound was there, but your mind doesn't get excited by it. Now you have equanimity in your mind. One of the things that happens with meditation when you're practicing one-pointed concentration is that any sound really boinks you. Okay, why does that happen? Because your concentration is too deep and your mindfulness is too little. When you're practicing with what I'm showing you, they get to be equal, they get to be even. So you'll hear a sound, but it doesn't shock you. And that used to happen to us all the time. In Burma, it's real interesting. The meditation centers are incredibly noisy. So we have sounds all the time. And I had to get used to the sounds being there. There was one year that I was at this center, and they decided they needed a well drilled right outside the meditation hall. And they had an old car engine without a muffler. And they would start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they would go till 6 o'clock in the evening. Constant. So I had to learn to let go of my aversion to the sound, because it was going to be there whether I liked it or not. And then at 6 o'clock, they would stop, and it would be like, oh, yeah, this is better. And then about 6:30, 6:45, right outside the meditation, this was a meditation center in the city. Right outside the meditation wall, they set up their tea booths. And they liked to play loud Burmese music. And they would play some at this tea shop, and then the next one over would say, you know, that was pretty good. I want to play that. So until about 10 o'clock at night, there was a lot of Burmese music. And then quiet. Now 10 o'clock is generally when people would go to bed, but I'm a nighttime person, and my best meditation is at night. So I would keep sitting, and around 11 o'clock, the neighbors would turn on their generators, so they had light. And that happened all the rest of the night. So I had to learn the hard way how to not dislike sound because it was there. When I came back to America, I went to a retreat that one of my friends was giving. And it was hot. It was 41, 42 degrees. And they didn't have any air conditioning, so they had a fan. But they were all practicing one-pointed concentration, and they said, the sound from the fan is driving me crazy. Let's turn it off. And I said, are you crazy? No way. You're going to leave the fan on. If I have to stand guard over the fan, you're going to leave it on. But that's one of the things that happens with one-pointed concentration. With this kind of meditation, you hear the sound. You're very aware of it, but it doesn't make your mind wobble. It doesn't make your mind go to that sound. It just kind of goes through you. And you have full awareness. I mean, you'll hear a car or a motorcycle go by. It doesn't shake your mind up at all. Okay, that happened. You know it happened. If I come up and I touch you, you will feel it. But it doesn't disturb your mind away from your object of meditation. You just know that there was a feeling. Sometimes the ants come up and they crawl on you and things like that, and you know that it's there, but okay, so what? Never mind. You have this balance in your mind. Now, this balance, this equanimity, is something that you're going to be able to, when you get off retreat, you're going to have more balance in your mind with your daily activities. You're not going to have so much ups and downs of emotional things. You're going to have more balance, and that's a nice thing in itself. So, right as soon as your mind starts staying with your object of meditation for longer and longer periods of time, you're going to feel more tranquility. You're going to feel more comfortable in your mind and in your body than you felt before. It's going to be really nice. And what's going to happen is you're going to go a little bit deeper, and you're going to start losing feeling in different places in your body. You won't notice your hands. Now, if you put your attention on your hands, you're going to feel your hands. But eventually, you're just not going to feel an arm. You're not going to feel a leg. And it's natural. And this is okay. This is good. As you lose tension in your mind, you lose feeling in your body. Now, if there's contact, you're going to notice it. If I come up to you and say, I need to talk to you for a moment, you're going to hear that. With one-pointed concentration, you don't. Okay? Now, I was at a meditation center where there was this little 12-year-old boy that he was really good with meditation. And he got into deep concentration, and the abbot took a pair of chopsticks, and he started hitting him on the head and poking him, and there was no reaction at all. Then he got a bell and put it real close to his ear and rang it loud. No reaction at all. He didn't know that that was happening. The abbot took his hands and he put them over his head like this. And after a period of time, the hands came down until they touched some part of the body, and then they just stayed there. And the boy came out of the meditation and he saw that he was sitting like this, and he kind of looked at that. Well, that's weird. But that's what happens with one-pointed concentration. You don't have full awareness, because the force of the concentration stops from having this experience. It stops you. Your concentration becomes so one-pointed, you don't know that things are happening around you. That's not what we call full awareness. And as I just read to you, this is full awareness. Equanimity, mindful, and fully aware. Okay? So you know that these things are happening around you, but it doesn't make your mind wobble and go to it. It allows your mind just to accept, yeah, that's there, okay, never mind. It's not any big deal. So, and the states in the third jhana, the equanimity, the happiness, the mindfulness, the full awareness, and unification of mind. The contact, feeling, perception, formations, and mind. Now there's the four foundations of mindfulness again, while you're in the third jhana. This kind of jhana, we call it the aware jhana. as opposed to the one-pointed kind of jhana that almost everybody is teaching these days. Okay, the enthusiasm, decision, energy, mindfulness, equanimity, and attention. These states were defined by him one by one as they occurred. Known to him those states arose, known they were present, known they disappeared. He understood there's still more to do. And with the cultivation of that attainment, he confirmed that there is. Makes sense. But now you're really starting to understand more and more clearly. When your mindfulness goes away and you have a hindrance coming up, it doesn't bother you so much. Now you're understanding. You're teaching yourself how to handle that hindrance, how to recognize it, how to use the 6 R's and let it go. And this helps you with your daily life, because now you're going to be able to recognize hindrances when they come up in your daily life. This is why I was saying this morning, I wrote a book called Life is Meditation, Meditation is Life. This you can carry with you all the time. And it starts to be fun. You start to really understand, and you start to have more and more confidence that, yeah, I really do see how this works. And it's matching what it says in the suttas. And that's kind of exciting in itself. Now, what happens when you get into the 3rd jhana is you start losing feeling on your body unless there's contact. If something touches you, you'll know it, but it doesn't make your mind shake. And eventually, the feeling of loving kindness in your heart disappears, and it moves up into your head. This is a natural process. This happens by itself. This is a good thing. It's not something to be over-concerned with. Again, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, Sariputta entered upon and abided in the 4th jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure in purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. When you get to the 4th jhana, the feeling of comfort disappears. You don't feel your body anymore. Now you're in a mental realm. And you still radiate loving kindness to your spiritual friend. But this is when I'm going to come to you and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to change your meditation. And I'm not going to tell you how I change your meditation right now. You have to wait and see. But when you get to the 4th jhana, this is where the Buddha really praises the meditator for being able to experience this. Your mind has very, very strong balance in it. Nothing really upsets your mind. You see things as they actually are. And your mind is at ease. Your mind is very clear. Your mind is very bright. And you have this equanimity all the time. When you get to the 4th jhana, where the Buddha praises so much, You start reading the suttas, you're going to understand them. Why? Because you have direct experience. You don't have to be told by anybody else what this means. You're going to see for yourself and you're going to understand it. Now, you're going to pick up other Dhamma books and you'll see, well, that doesn't agree with the experience I have, so we'll let that go. Some of the things in Dhamma books are not as correct as they could be. But there's still some advantages to reading some of these things that give you some good ideas on how to handle things. But your understanding is going to be much more clear, much more alert. And it starts to be more fun. Because now you really are understanding. Now you're getting it. And you'll be able to sit for longer periods of time with your object of meditation. Maybe 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, like that. And your mind has this great balance in it. All right. Yeah, you can still hear other things. You still have a body that if you have contact, you will feel it. But it's not going to make your mind shake. Your mind is just going to go, okay, that was there. Fine. Never mind. Okay. Let's see. Okay. And the states in the fourth jhana, the equanimity, the neither painful nor pleasant feeling, the mental unconcern due to tranquility. So you have very strong calmness, peace, wonderful feeling in your mind that doesn't have excitement. Now, when you first start doing the meditation, your mind is flip-flopping like this, okay? And then as you get to the second jhana, it doesn't flip-flop quite as much. You get to the third jhana, it's less. When you get to the fourth jhana, then it's just slight movement and vibration that you're noticing. So your mind is quite a bit quieter and more accepting of things as they arise. And as I said, this is something that you're going to be able to carry with you when you get out of the retreat, because you're teaching yourself all the time. It doesn't mean you won't get caught by an emotional state sometimes. You will. But they won't last as long. You'll see what you're doing to yourself. You're going to see how much pain you cause yourself. And then you start going, well, why do I want to do that? Let's just 6R and let this one go. Okay. The purity of the mental unconcern due to tranquility, the purity of mindfulness, the unification of mind, the contact, feeling, perception, formations, and mind. Now you still have the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And you're teaching yourself more and more about that all the time. The enthusiasm, you start getting really enthusiastic because you're understanding so much more. You're really getting it. And you know deep down inside, this is right. This really does work. The decision, energy, mindfulness, equanimity, and attention, these states were defined by him one by one as they occurred. So, while you're in the jhana, you're still seeing impermanence. One of the things I noticed with a lot of the different kinds of meditation that I've done over the years is there's a lot of talk about anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay? And it kind of turns into a philosophy, and you kind of believe it, but with this meditation, you see it. And you see it clearly with deep understanding, and I'll show you in just a minute. Known to him those states arose, known they were present, known they disappeared. He understood there's still more to do, and with the cultivation of that attainment, he confirmed that there is. So you get to the fourth jhana, you start having a lot more confidence in your practice. You start feeling, yeah, I'm getting it. When you are starting out with the meditation, I don't tell you what jhana you're in, because it doesn't matter. What matters is how you're learning the lessons of each jhana. Once you get to the fourth jhana, you start seeing for yourself, yeah, this is the way it's actually working. Again, with the complete surmounting of gross perceptions of form, with the disappearance of gross perceptions of sensory impact. Now you don't have a body anymore unless there's contact. You'll feel the contact, doesn't make you wobble at all. And the feeling of loving kindness changes when you get to this state. Aware that space is infinite, Sariputta entered upon and abided in the base of infinite space. Now you're in a formless realm, you're in a mental realm, and the feeling of loving kindness changes to a feeling of compassion, all by itself. I won't describe to you what that is. You have to describe that to me. That way I can make sure that you're actually experiencing it. But you're able to stay with your object of meditation, which now is the feeling of compassion. When you get to the fourth jhana, what I'm going to tell you to do after some changes to your meditation, I'm going to tell you to let go of individual people, and now you start radiating loving kindness to all beings. In the 6 directions, that's what it says in the suttas. 5 minutes to all beings in front of you. 5 minutes, all beings behind you. 5 minutes to the right, 5 minutes to the left. 5 minutes above, 5 minutes below. When you get done with that, then all the rest of the time of your sitting, when you get up and you start doing your walking, you radiate to all beings in all the directions at the same time. It's like being in a bubble and just radiating loving kindness to all beings. So, as you go deeper in your meditation, the feeling of loving kindness changes to equanimity. And the compassion. And the feeling of compassion is different than the feeling of loving kindness. And you have to describe that to me. But also, you're going to feel an expansion happening in your head. And it's just going to keep on going out and out and out. And that is the feeling of infinite space. Now, again, you don't have a body anymore. You're only in a mental realm. Okay, and the states in the base of infinite space with compassion. Now, this is the state that the Buddha sat in every morning for a couple of hours. The Mahayana, they like to talk about infinite compassion that the Buddha had. What they're actually talking about is compassion with infinite space. And just a little misunderstanding. And the Buddha sat in this for a couple hours every day, having compassion for all beings in all the directions. Okay, the perception of the base of infinite space with compassion, the unification of mind. The contact, feeling, perception, formations, and mind. Now you have the four foundations of mindfulness even when you're in a mental realm. Now the body, you're still going to be able to feel things if they start flies land on you, that kind of stuff. You'll still feel it, but it's just there. It doesn't matter. The enthusiasm, decision, energy, mindfulness, equanimity, and attention. These states were defined by him one by one as they occurred. He's still seeing the impermanence of everything. Known to him, those states arose, known they were present, known they disappeared. He understood there's still more to do. Now you really start having fun with your meditation. It really does get to be fun, I promise. He understood there's still more to do, and with the cultivation of that attainment, he confirmed that there is. So you still got more to go, but now it's really starting to be nice. And you start having more fun, and you start staying with your object of meditation, right? When you're with compassion, that's your object of meditation. And you stay with that, radiating to all beings in all the directions. You might be able to stay for 15 or 20 minutes without any disturbance in your mind. And that's nice. That's really peaceful. That's really calm. That's really a happy feeling. Again, by completely surmounting the base of infinite space with compassion. Aware that consciousness is infinite. The feeling of compassion naturally changes by itself to a feeling of joy. Now, this is the kind of joy that I haven't talked about yet. This kind of joy it's called all-pervading joy. This kind of joy is the awakening factor of joy. Okay? It doesn't have the excitement in it anymore. It's just a really, really happy feeling, and it's nice, and it lasts for quite a while. Now, one of the things that happens when you get to infinite space is at one of the sense doors, it can be the eyes or ears, whatever, you're going to start noticing very fast flickering. Very fast. And it's like a movie that's going a little bit too slow, and you see the picture and then a blank spot, and a picture and a blank spot. What you are starting to see is rebirth. You're seeing up close and personal birth, death of individual consciousnesses. Now, that was roughly 100,000 arising and passing away of sound consciousness. When you get to this state, you're going to start seeing individual consciousness arise and pass away, arise and pass away. And what is that showing you? That everything is in a state of change. It can be at any one of the sense doors that this happens, but you'll notice it. And because it's always there and gone, there and gone, there and gone, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, it's unsatisfactory. It's painful. It's dukkha. And you're going to see that there is no controller. It happens by itself. So you're seeing anicca, dukkha, anatta, up close and personal. You're seeing it for yourself. There's no doubt in your mind whether this is real or not. It doesn't have anything to do with philosophy, because you're seeing it as it occurs. Great insights. One of the things that happens when you start getting deeper into your meditation like this is that there can be fear arise. And it can be pretty intense at times. I've had people call me up from all over the world when they get this happening and they're saying, I have so much fear, what can I do with it? And you know what my answer is? Laugh. As odd as it sounds, what's happening is your mind is starting to recognize that it's not in control, like it always thought it was. And it starts throwing temper tantrums at you. And it causes fear to arise. And when you laugh, all of a sudden that fear disappears. And you're seeing true anatta. You're seeing the impersonal nature of everything. So now you're having a lot of insights into the true nature of everything. And you start seeing more and more clearly how this actually does work. And it gets kind of exciting when you get to that stage. It's really nice. You have this joy arise, this really happy feeling. And one of the weird things that can happen while you're sitting is you're sitting with your eyes closed and you're staying with the joy and you're really like this, and all of a sudden your eyes open up and you go, oh, that's weird. So you close your eyes and your eyes open up again. You close your eyes. They open up. Ah, you want to be open? Okay, stay open. I don't care. Now you see a lot of Buddha images with the eyes half open. That's the artist showing you that he's experiencing this kind of joy. Sometimes that's misunderstood with a lot of meditators, and they think you're supposed to sit with your eyes open all the time. The only problem of sitting with your eyes open is if there is a slight bit of movement. Even if a fly comes, your eyes go to it. And it can distract you a little bit. But if you want to sit with your eyes open, that's your choice. I don't care. It's a natural kind of process. And the joy that you experience is very deep, profound kind of joy. And this is called infinite consciousness. Now, as you go deeper, what's going to happen is the joy is going to fade away. And you're going to experience what is called nothingness. This is where mind does not look outside of itself anymore. Now you're just watching mind, and there's nothing there. But this kind of meditation is really, really interesting, and there's nothing. Now, the feeling of joy changes by itself to a feeling of compassion, the feeling of equanimity. And equanimity is really strong. Where you had equanimity at the fourth jhana, it was kind of coarse. Now it's very fine. And I can tell when I'm talking to you if that's what your experience is. Well, how's it going today? Fine, everything's fine. You having fun with your meditation today? Yes, everything's fine. There's just no excitement in the voice at all because the equanimity is so very strong. Now you're going to be sitting for longer periods of time. You're going to start sitting for 3 hours, 3.5 hours at a time. You're going to start staying with your object of meditation, which is the equanimity at this time, for longer periods of time, half hour, 40 minutes, like that. But it's a real interesting state to be in. I won't tell you why it's interesting. You have to tell me. Oh, that's no fair. He has to tell me these things. But I have to make sure that you're really experiencing it. And if I tell you, you might think you're experiencing it when you're not. So when now your object of meditation is the equanimity, the balance of mind, and you radiate the 6 directions, and then you radiate to all directions at the same time. And it gets to be very interesting. If you try to hold on to that feeling of equanimity with too much energy, your mind is going to get restless. If you kind of slack off and you don't keep your attention on your object of meditation, your mind is going to get dull. Now, this is where you learn to adjust the amount of attention that you stay with your object of meditation. And it gets to be quite fun doing this. Then what's going to happen is the feeling of equanimity is going to disappear. While you're in the realm of nothingness, you still have the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But this is as far as the 4 foundations will take you. Because when you start getting into this next state of meditation, it's really, really subtle states. And it's called neither perception nor non-perception. And because it's so subtle, the grosser forms of the four foundations, they aren't noticeable. But what happens is you get to a state where it's like being asleep and being aware at the same time. It's kind of weird. And then that will disappear and there's nothing. Now what you do is you take mind as your object of meditation. You can sit for a long period of time, just peaceful, calm, no disturbance in your mind at all. You might sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. I had one student that sat for 3 hours without any movement of mind's attention at all. But when you see a little tiny movement of mind's attention, then you relax right then and stay with that peaceful, calm mind. Now, because you're sitting so long, you're sitting at least 3 hours, when you get up and start doing your walking meditation, now I really want you to walk and really put in some exercise. Because you notice that I don't walk around very much and I have trouble walking because I was told in Burma that I had to sit for long periods of time and I pushed it. And I didn't get any exercise and I wound up with blood clots in my legs, and I don't want that to happen to you. So after you're sitting for 3 hours, I want you to run up and down the stairs. I want you to get your blood moving again. But while you're doing this, you stay with equanimity in your mind. So you're not just letting your mind ho-hum around, you're staying with that balance of mind. And you get more exercise, and then you start breathing more deeply, you're putting more oxygen in your system, and that helps your sitting. So you'll be able to do this for a period of time. And you'll start to sit for longer periods of time. Sometimes it's 3.5, 4 hours, because it's comfortable. It's not difficult. And one of the things that's going to happen is when the conditions are right, everything is going to just stop. You don't know you're in that state until you come out of it. This is called the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness. So if there's no consciousness, you don't know you're in that state. But when you come out, you're going to feel really, really strong relief. It's just like somebody took a heavy weight off your shoulders. You're going to feel really nice. And then, depending on your mindfulness at the time, you can see tiny little movements of mind's attention, but they're happening fairly fast. And that'll happen for a little bit. Not even a minute. I mean, it just happens fast. And then you're going to experience very, very strong joy. You are going to be happy. I guarantee it. And you have just experienced Nibbana. And there's certain questions that I ask you to make sure that you have that experience. I'm not going to tell you what they are either. But you're going to be happy, and you're going to... One of the things that it says in the suttas, when the Buddha was talking about experiencing Sotapanna, which is called stream entry, is that when you have this experience, you have given up an ocean of suffering. It's really nice. Your perspective of things is going to change. Your awareness of things is going to change. Your daily activities, you're going to see things more clearly. Your perception of things is going to change. Now, you can still break a precept, but you're going to feel so guilty that you're going to come running to a monk and say, I broke this precept, let's fix it. So the monk is going to talk to you about it a bit, and then he's going to give you the precepts again with the determination not to do that again, not to break that precept. And that lets go of the guilty feeling. So this particular sutta has taken you through every stage of the meditation. And of course, I haven't told you everything that you are going to experience, but I'm pretty good at recognizing these kind of things when you start talking about it. Is it possible to do that in this lifetime? Absolutely. I have a lot of students in Indonesia. I've been going there for 6 or 7 or 8 years, something like that. And more than half of the people that do a retreat with me in Indonesia experience Nibbana at least once. I don't care if they're old students. I don't care if they're brand new and they don't know anything about the meditation. Actually, that's the best ones to teach because they don't have any clue what's going to happen next. But it's about 60% of the people attain Nibbana at least once during a 10-day retreat. This is why I like loving-kindness meditation and the Brahma Viharas, because your progress is very fast when you follow the directions and don't add anything else. Generally, what happens when somebody that's an experienced meditator does this, they don't agree with what I'm saying. But I don't care. I have many, many, many students that have had this experience worldwide. Doesn't matter what country I go to. As long as the transcriber, the translator is good, then there is progress in the meditation, and it is fast and it does work. So there's real personality change that happens for you. You become more balanced in your daily life. You don't have as much ups and downs and sadnesses and pains and all of these kind of things. They start to change. because your perspective starts to change and you start taking more and more responsibility for your own happiness. You don't depend on anybody else for your happiness. And there's a lot of relief in that. Now, I have some students that they've had this experience a few times, and they've become to the second stage of awakening that's called Sakadagami, that's called a once returner. And I have some students that have become Anagami. And Anagami is someone that they never have lust or hatred arise in their mind ever. Their mind is very full of loving kindness. Their mind is, they have a sense of fun that's just real nice to be around. I love being around my students that have that kind of development, because they're happy all the time. And there's real advantages to getting to that stage. I mean, imagine having one of your relatives that never had any negativity arising in their mind at all. They were happy all the time. I mean, you got to clean the house once in a while, right? Well, they're happy doing that. It doesn't matter what they're doing. You got to wash your clothes. You got to wash your dishes. You got to take care of things that need to be taken care of. But they don't have any dread in their mind. They don't have any dislike in their mind. It's just, okay, we got to do this, then let's do this right now. Fine. I have one student that he only takes sleep about 2 hours every other day. Now, one of the advantages of becoming an Anagami is because you can get into the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness at will. And you can be there for a long period of time, or you can be there for a short period of time. So when he first became an Anagami, I started suggesting to him that he take a 20-minute break and just sit in the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness. There's unbelievable relief. There's nothing that disturbs you at all. And after coming out, he makes a determination, I'm just going to be in this for, say, a half an hour. And when he comes out, it's the equivalent of 8 hours sleep. And he has all kinds of energy, and he has his own company. He runs a computer company. And he's very energetic, and he has a lot of fun with everything that he does. If you want to hear, I had an interview with him, and we recorded it, and it's on my website, dhammasukha.org. But I ask him all kinds of questions about what's in your mind. What are you doing? How do you handle this? What's that like? I ask him a lot of different questions, because now I understand what all of this is all about. The interesting thing with this particular student was I never met him until last year. He's been like this for 3 or 4 years. we taught him online retreats. Okay, if you want to practice an online retreat, get in touch with Sister Kema, and she will help you to do an online retreat. And that seems to work out real well, because I'm not able to spend that much time in one place. I get pulled here and there all over the world. But if you want to keep your practice going, then you can get in touch with her and she'll help you to get on an online retreat. And that means you do what you did this morning. You take the precepts, you take the refuges, you do a little ceremony to start out the day. Then you sit for an hour. Now, if you have to go to work, okay, go to work. The trick is you need to smile all the time. At lunchtime, if you have some extra time, sit or do some walking meditation, whatever. You come home in the evening, you tell her what's happened during your daily activities, how your meditation is going. She has a list of questions that she'll ask you, and then she'll write back and give you a comment. Now, I have between 600 and 700 YouTubes of Dhamma talks, and she'll tell you a Dhamma talk to go to and listen to, and then sit for an hour or so before you go to sleep. And do that every day for 8 or 9 days, however long she wants to do it. So you can be successful by doing online retreats too. And it does actually work. I have some monk friends, and they like to get in competition with me about certain things, and I'm better at this than you are, that kind of thing. And it's kind of fun. I don't care. And I told this one monk, I said, I've been having a lot of success with online retreats. People are really getting it. They're really going through all of these different levels of jhana, these different levels of practice. So he decided he was going to try that. It lasted for almost 1 week. When he found out how difficult it was and how much you really had to know before you can help somebody else, you had to understand exactly where they were, which means that you had to go through that experience yourself. And it's kind of funny. He was advertising it really heavy on the internet, and it didn't even last 1 week before he took it down. But that's no problem. So I've been talking for a long time. Do you have any questions about what I've been talking about?
I have a question. My question is regarding the relaxation part. My mind is trained in a manner that every time I observe that my mind has wandered off, it comes to the object of meditation instead of taking a pause.
It takes some practice.
I don't really know how to relax.
You have to recognize that you have tension first, don't you? Okay, make a fist. Let go of the tightness that's causing that fist. How did you do that? By recognizing that there was tightness there and you relaxed. It takes some practice. Now, just because you've been doing the meditation for a long time, you have to make up your mind that I'm going to do this differently. And I had a man he'd been meditating for 7 years. He'd been doing Anapanasati. And he started complaining to me about, I don't see any personality development, and that's what meditation is for in his mind. So he said, can you help me? And I said, yes. And I gave him the instructions. On the in-breath, you relax. On the out-breath, you relax. There's a distraction, you let it be, you relax, you come back, and he would start doing that, and then he would forget and just go back into his old habit of doing it. And then he would complain. Okay, fair enough. So I said, I'm tired of you complaining, so I'm going to change your meditation. Now I want you to practice loving kindness. Let go of mindfulness of breathing at all. Just radiate that feeling of loving kindness. Now, because he changed his meditation, he wasn't able to gain that deep concentration that suppressed the hindrances. And he had hindrances coming up a lot. And he said, I'm going to go back to mindfulness of breathing. At least I got some relief. And I said, no, you have to learn this. And he complained for a week. Oh, I hate this meditation. I have so much stuff coming up in my mind. And I said, okay, I'm tired of listening to this. I said, I don't want you to sit for 1 week. The only thing I want you to do is smile all day, whether you feel like it or not. Smile. And when you don't feel like smiling, I want you to laugh. Okay. I said, you have to do it all the time. I didn't hear from him for a week. I thought, well, he went and did something else. Then he writes to me and he said, I took what you said very seriously, and these are some of the things that I noticed because I was smiling. Always before, when I would walk from one place to another, I was walking in a mental haze. And then when I started smiling, instead of having my head down and just being in this mental haze, his posture started changing, and he started looking around, and he started smiling, and other people did the weirdest thing. They smiled back. And he said, nobody ever smiles to me. Well, okay. And he said, and even when it was difficult to smile, I smiled anyway. And it wasn't a sincere smile, but I smiled. And I saw it change my mind. My mind became lighter. So I wrote back to him and I said, have you noticed any difference in your mindfulness? And he said, I didn't even know what mindfulness was. Now I see what you're talking about with remembering to observe how mind's attention moves, because now his mindfulness was catching it. And he was seeing that how he caused himself a lot of suffering because of that. And then he wrote something that really was kind of a shocker for me. He said, now I don't have to take so many drugs. Drugs? Well, yeah, I'm in a mental institute. Oh? But we had a Yahoo group where a lot of people would ask about meditation, and we'd talk to them, and he started answering. And because he had smiled so much, and he did it for a week, and people were coming up and they were being kind to him and they were talking to him, and this was brand new stuff for him. He started writing, and he'd say, I hear you say what you're saying about the meditation and you don't understand this or that. I don't know if it's really true or not, but this is what my experience was. And he was giving exactly the right answers, because he took it to heart to smile, which improved his mindfulness, which improved the way that he was observing the world, and he could see that tension and tightness much more easily and let it go more quickly. So, come and do a retreat with me, and I'm gonna beat you into smiling all the time.
Actually, we can tickle you. I have a tickle stick. We can tickle you into smiling.
The biggest problem with most of the meditations is that there's so much seriousness, and there is real effort, and there is real trying to attain what the teacher says, and that's admirable. But if you can have that in a sense of fun instead of a sense of work, that's going to change your perspective. Now, I had mindfulness of breathing for 20 years. Okay, I really did it a lot. And when I made up my mind that I was going to do just loving kindness, it took me one day to let go of the habit of mindfulness of breathing and the way I was treating mind, so that it lightened up. I softened my mind. I made my mind more alert by smiling. It only took me one day to overcome that problem. And of course, I have people that say, well, that's you. Like I'm something special. No, I'm not. I'm just a regular guy that makes up his mind to do something, and I'm going to stick with it. I mean, I stayed with mindfulness of breathing for 20 years. I went to the end of it. I was successful according to their definitions of experiencing Nibbana, but I wasn't satisfied with it. And in a way, I was kind of like the Buddha. He tried all kinds of different ways of doing meditation. I mean, he did some of the most disgusting stuff. Eating his own excrement and drinking his own urine and doing things like that. And oh, geez, I'm glad he did it so I don't have to. But I went through my own set of austerities, let's put it that way. So, practice smiling. Every time you smile, you are experiencing the Eightfold Path. If I had more time, I would explain that to you, but I don't. This is just a real short retreat. Okay?
Thank you for that. I still have a question regarding the walking meditation.
Okay?
If I understand correctly, we are essentially doing the same as we are doing in a sitting meditation.
Right.
So we are relaxing and we are sending metta to our spiritual friend.
Right.
The only difference being that we are walking. Is that right?
Right. You're not paying attention to your feet while you're walking. You pay attention to your spiritual friend while you're walking. Mm-hmm. And your mind gets distracted. Then you use the 6 R's and come back to your friend. At first, it's difficult because you're not used to walking that way. But okay, turn it into a game and play with it. Don't get serious with it. And laugh with yourself because your mind wants to think about this or that. Just laugh with it and let it be. And relax and smile and come back. Stay with your spiritual friend as much as you can. See, one of the things that made the Buddha such a remarkable being was he showed us the simplest way to do things. But unfortunately, we like complicated. I have a lot of people complaining to me about it can't be that easy. It can't be that simple. Well, yeah, it can. It doesn't have to be this torturous kind of practice. It can be a fun practice. And the more you have fun with it, the faster your progress becomes. Okay?
Following up on that, so this is regarding the sitting and the walking meditation. If we were to inculcate this practice in our daily life, one is that we are always smiling and laughing. So let's just give an example. For instance, there is something happening in your life. There is bitterness, there's disharmony, there's anger. I just smile, right?
Well, smile or laugh.
Smile or laugh.
Yeah.
At the same time recognizing that I can't help but feel bitter. But all I have to do is just
but that
smile.
That changes everything. The smiling changes your mind.
Right.
The laughter changes your mind. You stop going and taking it personally.
Right.
And that's where you're suffering. And when you laugh with that, it changes to a different perspective of, well, there is this bitterness. Do I want to carry it around? It's not mine. I didn't ask it to come up. Mm-hmm. See, what the smiling does is it improves your mindfulness so you're more aware of how this process works. And that puts balance into your life. And that's what equanimity is all about. It takes practice. There's no getting around it. You have to get used to doing it, and the more you can smile and give your smile away, the more you can help other people overcome their suffering, the more uplifted your mind becomes.
So what you're saying is that if somebody is abusing me, I'm feeling hurt initially. I'm feeling hurt because I'm new to this meditation, but I just smile. But if I keep on persisting with the smiling, slowly and slowly, I would actually I will be feeling lighter and would not be reacting that strongly.
It can be like that, but there are other meditations that I teach along with this.
Right.
And it's a major thing, and it's called forgiving. Okay, you have to learn how to forgive. Something that could have happened to you 10 years ago can still be bothering you now. So I teach you how to forgive yourself for holding on to it, forgive the other person for causing that pain. When you feel relief, that changes your entire perspective. that changes the way you see the world. I have some students, some women that have been violated very heavily by being raped and that sort of thing. Of course, they're not going to be happy about the person that did it, but they have to forgive that person because he didn't understand the violation that he did. And when you forgive them, that changes everything about the way you see the world. You don't see the world from anger because of something that happened in the past. So what I teach actually is a pretty full kinds of meditation. First, I get you to practice loving kindness to see what's coming up. Then if there is some anger, dissatisfaction, sadness, pain of some sort that you're holding on to, then I will change your meditation over to forgiveness and teach you how to let go of that pain. There was a lady that when she was 16, her father committed suicide. And she held on to a lot of anger about that. And her uncle stole the family's wealth. And she'd been holding on to that for 40 years. She came and she did a retreat, and I started teaching her about loving kindness. And she really did forgive him, for the uncle, for stealing. And she went home after the retreat, and her uncle called her up on the telephone asking her to forgive him. And she already had forgiven him. So she didn't hold on to that pain and suffering that had been clouding her life for 40 years. And she felt really happy, really much more at ease. So then I switched her back to loving kindness, and she was very successful. So it kind of depends on what the situation is.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yeah, I have one question, and there is one question online, if you will permit. So I'll first ask my question.
Okay.
And during driving, when we are driving, say from your home to office, from office to home, the common thing is to just listen to some music to pass the time, and then your mind is all over. So is there any session on meditation you want to give?
I'm not a guru. I'm not going to give you those kind of answers. You figure out what you're doing yourself. I don't want you to staying with your object of meditation when you're driving. I want you to drive. Okay? I don't want you to be distracted away from driving. I want you to be safe. But a lot of these kind of answers you will give for yourself. Whether you feel more comfortable listening to the radio, I personally don't really want to drive and listen to the radio. I like it when it's quiet. But that's me. It's up to you what you do with this practice. A lot of people, when they get off a retreat, they want me to give them answers like, well, how long should I sit in meditation every day? Well, that's your problem.
Don't ask.
I'll give you answers you don't really like to hear. Well, 6 hours is good. I do it, why can't you? But the whole thing is, I'm teaching you a different kind of perspective. And you do what's right for you. See, I don't want to be a guru. I don't want you coming to me with all of your problems. I got enough problems of my own. But I'm teaching you how to solve the problems. One of the things that I teach you how to do is listen to your intuition. You know, there's a sutta in here that the Buddha, he went through all kinds of different, while he was a bodhisattva, he went through all kinds of different hindrances, and he didn't have anybody to talk to. He had to figure out himself. So he asked himself the question, what's the cause and condition for this hindrance to be here? And his intuition told him this was doubt. So he was able to recognize that and adjust so he didn't have any more doubt arise. Trust intuition. You have all of the answers that you need. You just have to learn how to listen. When you have a big hindrance arise, let's say you have fear or anxiety or sadness or anger, whatever the catch of the day is, ask yourself, what is causing my mind to get caught up in this? How can I let this problem go? Your intuition will tell you. What's the cause of this arising? You might think you know the problem, but your intuition is going to tell you something different. And the interesting thing about intuition is it's always right, but you have to learn how to listen and adjust. Might not always give you the answers that you think you want, but it gives you the answers that you always need. Okay?
So there is this question which has come online, and there is a person who wants to ask how to give gestures in forgiveness meditation in all the 6 directions without verbalizing it.
You point your mind in that direction. You don't need to verbalize anything. You know what it's like to put your attention in front of you? You know what it's like to put your attention to the right? You don't have to tell yourself to do that. You definitely need to let go of verbalizing after you get past the first jhana.
Bhante, my question is, I've been working for many years with respiration and sensations. So today when we started to work on the spiritual friend and the loving kindness meditation, automatically the mind switches to the respiration or sensations.
Okay,
So-
then 6R and come back to, it takes a little while to overcome your old habit.
But with the spiritual friend, you also are able to observe the sensations at the same time. So you give importance.
No. The only thing you have to believe in Buddhism is that everything happens one thing at a time. While you're seeing and hearing me, you think you're doing it at the same time, but you're not. Because consciousness, like I told you, that happens when you get to infinite consciousness, you're seeing birth, death really, really, really quickly. So when you see me and hear me say something, those are two different consciousnesses that are intertwining with each other. Doesn't happen. It might seem like it happens at the same time. No, your attention is divided. You need to let it go. Just tell yourself, I'm not going to do this one anymore. I'm just going to do the loving kindness and stay with that and 6R and let go of the other way.
So the importance is only on the loving kindness meditation and
right.
Not the respiration or the sensation at all.
Nope. Those are different things altogether.
But the habit
that's
pattern
dividing your attention.
The habit pattern of the mind automatically, with so many years of practice on that.
Yeah. So. And I had 20 years of respiration meditation, and it took me a whole day to let it go because I made up my mind that I didn't want to do that anymore. See, that's the difference. You're not making up your mind you want to do it. You kind of want to hold on to this one while you're trying that one out, and it doesn't work very well.
I wouldn't say that's true, but it's just that I tried the whole day with a lot of effort to go on to the loving kindness, but the mind is just getting to the respiration. Okay, I was able to not go on respiration, but sensations, while you're smiling, you have the sensation right there. And you can feel the sensation, and the mind is...
But you don't keep your attention on it. It's not the smiling that's so important. It's the feeling of the loving kindness. You're holding on to and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying that this is what's happening. You're holding on, and you don't really want to let it go. When you make up your mind and you say, no, I'm not going to do this one anymore, I'm just going to go for this kind of meditation, 100%. I'm really going to go just for this one, without being attached to the other way, you can let go of it fairly quickly. But because you like doing the respiration and the feeling and that sort of thing, you don't want to let it go. And that's okay. That's up to you. It's your choice. But I'll tell you right now that if you don't put in the relaxed step, you're not going to follow what the Buddha was teaching. The relaxed step is incredibly important. And it's intentionally relaxing. Not just, well, I just let it be, I'm relaxed, that's enough. No, you have to consciously have the relaxed step in that. And it takes practice. Of course, your mind is going to go to, how many years have you been practicing this other way? Of course your mind is going to go to that. But don't make a big deal out of it in your mind. Just say, okay, my mind's doing this. I don't want to be doing that right now. I want to be smiling. I want to stay with my spiritual friend and radiate loving kindness to my friend.
What do you do about the thoughts? You see...
6 are the thoughts. Yeah. 6 are.
So you have to make an effort.
Of course you have to make an effort. How much effort have you put into doing the other kind of meditation? A lot.
Yes, but there was a presumption that it was you were observing effortlessly. So that...
But you weren't.
No, you
You
weren't.
were doing it intentionally.
Yes, you were observing the sensations as they were coming in.
Well,
you said that
you've developed that habit of doing it in this way, and I'm showing you something that works differently. if you want to see what I'm talking about, you have to let go of what you already know for a period of time and just tell yourself, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be paying attention to this kind of feeling or that kind of feeling. I'm just going to stay with the loving kindness with my friend.
I will try. I will try.
We had an interesting experience in a retreat. I was wondering whether it was possible this would ever happen. And there were two people who had been practicing the breathing meditation for many years, and in the same day, in the interviews, these two women came in, did exactly the same thing. They complained to him because they couldn't stop doing this, because they were afraid. The first woman came in, she said, I'm very concerned. He says, how are you doing? How long? And then how's it going? And she said, it's okay, but I'm really afraid that I can't do this. And we said, why? Because if I'm not watching my breath, I might not be able to breathe. This is how serious it had become for her. Now, I thought, one person, what's that mean? And not a couple hours later, another woman walked in who did the same thing in the same retreat and said the same thing. And when in the interview, we said to them, let me just ask you a question, because I was stunned that they had taken this so seriously to watch the breath. They were actually afraid as an adult they would not breathe if we told them not to be watching the breath. So something had gone wrong, obviously, in the instructions. But the point was, I said to her, when you were 6-year-old, do you remember running outside and playing? Do you remember that, playing tag when you were a little kid? Let me ask you a question. When you were outside playing as a little boy, did you breathe? Did anybody tell you how to breathe? Did anybody say, watch your breathing and to make it happen? No, she said. And then she got the picture, I don't make myself breathe. I said, the first thing you had in science in 3rd grade, before you had a serious science course, was voluntary and involuntary actions of the body. Do you remember that class? And what were the involuntary parts of your body? Your heart, your digestive system, and your lungs. You will breathe just fine, I promise. The other thing I would say to you is this. When I used to ride bike long distances, I went from a 10-speed bike to a 21-speed bike, and then to even a higher speed bike. The shift between those two bikes that I was riding was very difficult for me because I had to let go of the habit of shifting gears one way in a 10-speed bike to go and run an Olympic class bike. You see? It was very difficult, but I had to let go of what I knew. The coach kept saying this to me, because now you're riding this way, you have to do this way. It's not going to hurt me. I can always go back and get the 10-speed bike and ride it just fine. But now to go to the higher level of gearing, I have to do this a particular way to learn how the bike works. That's all you're doing. You're not going to ruin any practice. Don't ever worry about that. If you want to go back and follow the breath, it's not a problem. But that's just a habitual training that you've put in your mind. Now you're going to ask your mind, teach it, let go. When I say let go, let go. And it takes a bit of time to let go. That's all. That's all it is. It's not any more complicated than that. Okay? Really? Yeah?
It's a habit pattern of mind.
Of course. It's a habit that turned automatic, but we know it's a habit. That's the thing. And then now you can train another habit for a while. Doesn't mean you can't do that anymore. It's like you take me away for 5 years and I come back and say, can I still ride a horse? Sure. If I put me on a horse right now, I can ride it. Haven't ridden a horse in 25 years. But if you put me on a horse right now, I can ride a horse, gait a horse, everything, and jump it. Okay? But I haven't been on a horse for a long time. But I was for a while, for many years. I'm not going to lose that. You learned how to ride a bike. You learned how to watch your breath. Now what you need to learn how to do the relaxed step. It's all it is. And your mind is just being stubborn. That's all.
I have another question. Can I? Yeah, because in the meditation that I kind of worked with,
Right.
we started from the top of the head. And this was your center point, where it was your metta point from here to give the metta out. And this was to get the metta in. And I had a slight confusion because when you said about the chakras and when the metta point starts going from here to up.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure.
I haven't experienced it, but
Yeah.
I know that this at a moment it kind of opens up and you have very strong sensations on the top of the head.
There you go. One day.
Oh, you're into philosophy, you're into
Well,
not the actual experience of it, you're into the philosophy of it, you're into the thinking about it. And this is the way I was told that it had to be. But when it turns out to be not that way, that changes everything.
Well, I won't go into that because that's not important. But the point is, for me, it was not difficult today working to suppress the mind going on to the respiration. But the difficult part was the sensations, that this I could not avoid. And they just, by default, as soon as you close your eyes and you go on to that area, the sensations are there.
so
Honestly, you weren't smiling enough.
that's it. I was gonna say, you have to smile a lot.
And that sounds really weird. But if you don't smile enough, your mindfulness is not going to be as sharp. There's a reason that I want you to smile. I mean, I'm kind of a sneaky monk because I don't tell you all the stuff that you want to know. But you need to teach yourself, and that means smile.
You have to really.
When I said smile before, didn't I tell you 4 different places to smile? Not just here?
Smile on the lip, eye, ears.
Mind.
I didn't say ear, I
Your
said mind.
Mind, eyes,
And
lips,
heart.
Heart.
This is a feeling meditation, and the more you smile, the easier it is to feel it. I have people coming to me and they say, this meditation doesn't work. Well, yeah, it does. And it works really well and it works fast, but you have to follow the directions. Not be attached to the way that things are the way you're used to. You have to follow the directions. And what were you doing in your mind? Were you smiling when you were sitting? Or are you concerned? Because I want to be doing this other meditation. I want this to happen. I understand this. Well, you're thinking a lot, but you're not smiling.
Experiment with it. Go back and keep experimenting with it. Let go of your concern. Just try to smile a whole lot, okay, tomorrow when you're practicing. And see what happens.
I tried, and
Well, you tried for a little while.
yeah, it's not enough.
But it didn't happen the way you wanted it to,
No,
so
no.
you went back to the way you were doing it.
Not exactly. Bhante, it was. I'm going to put more effort tomorrow, but these were the situations I faced throughout the day.
Yep.
Which I wanted
It's
to,
very common. It's very common.
and
I remember I said that the first day of the retreat is by far the hardest.
The blues day.
and one of the really tough moments was that you're in a state of loving kindness, and suddenly you have a very, very angry thought or a totally 360 degrees opposite. And that kind of shook you for a minute, and you said that suddenly, I don't know what, from here you're getting into a very, very negative thought. And then you smile, and the 6 hours, you work on the 6 hours again, and you try to relax and come
No, you don't
back.
Try to relax. No.
You don't try. You
Don't
never
to
try.
relax.
You do
You
it.
just relax.
Relax.
Yeah.
It's not like you check your body or let's check and see if I'm relaxed here, or anything like that. It's just let go, relax.
When that negative feeling came up, did you take that as yours?
I don't know. I was not so...
Well, you were concerned with it, so that tells me that you were taking it personally.
Probably, yes.
And that causes all kinds of suffering to arise.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, smile into it, laugh. Your mind's trying to distract you in weird ways.
Yeah.
And it's okay, it can do that, but laugh with it. That changes your mindfulness so it becomes very strong. And you start seeing that I didn't ask this thought to come up, it's not mine. Did I sit here and say, I haven't been angry for a long time, I might as well be angry now? No, it just happened because conditions are right. Because of, in the past, you broke a precept. It might be 500 lifetimes ago. Who knows? It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with it as it arises. You don't have to be over-concerned about those kind of things. If you make a big deal out of it, it's going to come back. Okay?
Thank you.
So when you start having a sense of fun with your meditation, then that changes your perspective and you don't take these things so seriously. And that changes everything. It makes your mind lighter. That's what happened with this man that was in the mental institute. When he went in, he was told, you're going to be here for the rest of your life. You don't have the kind of balance that you need to function in daily life. After 6 months, they let him out.
Mainstream.
And he's still out. He must have been doing something right. And that's just because he was smiling. I mean, he was completely amazed that smiling would make that much of a difference in his life. We get really serious. And any time you have repeat thoughts, you have an attachment. And that attachment is suffering. It hurts, and it causes you to get really upset, and then it gets boring hearing the same thing coming up in your mind, just like it was on a tape deck. Well, that's when you have to laugh. My mind's going crazy, and it's okay for it to go crazy. Everybody's mind is crazy. Okay, we all have our emotional ups and downs and getting caught and all of this kind of stuff. So turn it into a game and play with it instead of being serious with it.
But why? Why not?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Why should I?
Life goes along much more easily when you're having fun than when you're serious. It really does work that way. So when you were a little kid and something happened and you fell down and you cried for a minute, then you got up and forgot about it and continued on. Well, why did we lose that? Who was it that came along and said, okay, you're old now, you got to be serious? and you can't have any more fun. You got to be serious. Well, I'd like to smack that guy in the head. Oh, I'm a monk. I'm not supposed to say that. But we do it to ourselves, and we forget to have fun because we get so serious and caught up with this kind of stuff and that kind of stuff, and we think that that's what life is, and it's not. You can have fun all the time. I give you permission to have fun all the time, okay? Laugh more. Smile more. Stop getting so serious. When you're serious, guess who has an attachment? What is that attachment? I am that. And I don't like that. I want it to be different than it is. Well, that's just a matter of training. Train yourself to be kind to yourself. One of the biggest problems that I see people having is how hard they are on themselves because they expect themselves to be perfect. And the truth is, you're not. And you need to make mistakes because that's how you learn. Just don't make the same mistake over and over and over again.
So you're telling me I should lovingly accept the present moment as it is without trying to make it something else?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of remember that.
Well, that's why you get into the habit of smiling, because that helps your mindfulness.
So, Bhante, there is this one more question online, and this person is from Vipassana tradition. And so he wants to understand that how the meditation which is being taught now, the craving and aversion go away in this particular meditation which you are teaching. In the
How does it?
Not by noting it until it goes away, because it always comes back. Okay? When you use the 6 R's, when you use the relaxed step, you're letting go of the craving. As soon as you let go of the craving, your mind is clear, your mind is bright, your mindfulness is really sharp, and your mind is pure. That's how you let it go. And then you bring that clear, happy, bright mind that's pure back to your object of meditation. And you stay with your object of meditation for longer and longer periods of time. And your mind stays pure for longer and longer periods of time. It takes practice, yeah. But does it work? I guarantee it. I know it does. See, what happened to me in 1995, this book came out. Okay, it's Bhikkhu Bodhi. Bhikkhu Bodhi and I have been friends for a long time. So I was real happy because I've read a lot of his interpretation of things and his translations, and so I was real happy with it. I had another monk friend come from Sri Lanka and talk to me about what I was teaching and how I was teaching it. And he said, "You're teaching it correctly, but you're using the language of commentaries." Now, that's all I had ever used before. He said, "Why don't you drop the commentaries and just go to the suttas?" So I did. And that was a major change in my life, because I Well, I ran across the Satipatthana Sutta. That's the first one I'm going to go to. And I find out this instruction is just 4 sentences. And one of the sentences is ignored by everybody doing mindfulness of breathing. They're ignoring it. And the mindfulness of breathing says, on the in-breath you tranquilize your bodily formation. On the out-breath you tranquilize your bodily formation. You can't get any simpler than that. But what does that mean? I had to look for it for quite a while. Like most Westerners, I was thinking it's somewhere in the body, not thinking that the body is up here. But one thing that I noticed when I was doing the straight Vipassana, and I was, again, quite successful at doing it, but I always had tension and tightness in my mind, in my head. And I'd go to the teacher and I'd say, I have this tension and tightness here. Oh, just ignore it. It's nothing. So one day, as I was reading this, and I was teaching meditation and doing all kinds of things, I was walking back to my room and I started thinking about this tension and tightness that's always here. And I thought, I wonder if that's what it is. So because I've done a lot of meditation, I knew how to relax my head. So I relaxed. And I was blown away because I didn't have any more distracting thoughts. My mind was clear. My mind was really bright. And I thought, I wonder what happens if I do that again. So I relaxed again. And the same thing happened. And I thought, okay. So I went to my room. I sat in meditation for a couple hours, doing only the instructions that it gives in the sutta. And I found out some real interesting things. I had gone deeper in one sitting than I had ever gone before with the kind of meditation that I'd been doing before. I went a lot deeper. And I started understanding what the Buddha was talking about. So I took my book, I went to my teacher, the head monk at that time, and I said, I'm going to a cave in Thailand. I told him where it was. It was a great cave. Had running water. I mean, you couldn't get a better place than this. This was great. And when I went there, it was close enough to a village so I could go and get food every day. There was only one slight problem with the cave, and that was that there was a cobra that decided he wanted to live there too. So I got to be friends with him. And if I would go but not pay attention to what I was doing and I would get a little bit too close to him, he would hiss at me. And I said, oh, sorry. So back off. And every now and then I'd give him something to eat. And he kept the mice away from my stuff because the mice like to eat this kind of stuff. So he was doing me a favor, so I'd feed him every now and then, and we got to be friends. And what happened was I would get up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and as soon as it got light enough, I would go out on alms round, and I would collect food, and I would come back, and I would eat and take a shower and do all of the personal things that needed to be done. And then I would pick up the book, and I started reading. And I had so many light bulbs going off in my head. Now, I'd already had 20 years of practice, So I'd listened to many Dhamma talks, so I already had some clue as to what the suttas were talking about. But in the afternoon, say around 1 o'clock, I would start sitting, and I would sit till 11 o'clock at night. Then I would get up and do the same thing the next day. So I would study in the morning, and then I would practice in the evening, or practice in the daytime and the night. And I was only going to stay there for 2 months, or 2 weeks, excuse me. And after 2 weeks, I was learning so much, and I was seeing so much, and I was going so deeply that I couldn't stop. And I wound up staying there for 3 months. And then the teacher of the abbot of the place that I was staying at, he wanted me to come and help him at the monastery. So he sent somebody to come get me, or else I might still be there. And I'm very happy being alone. I like being alone, and I'm never lonely. I'm never bored. I have an amazing life because I can't think of any job in the world that's better than what I do. And I take people that are sad, I take people that are suffering, and I show them how to let it go. That's a great job. And I travel all over the world. That's good fun. But it's real interesting. This is a main book. It's called the Middle Length Sayings, or Middle Length Discourses of the Buddha. And this has all the information you need to attain Nibbana. But the thing is that you have to be fairly alert as to what the Buddha is talking about and figure it out for yourself. I had an insight that the 4 foundations of mindfulness and the 5 aggregates are the same, just different ways of describing it. And I spent a few days trying to think of all the different aspects, whether it really worked or not. And then somebody came along and gave me a book, and it showed that exactly that was right. And that's really kind of nice, you know. I figured it out, and then somebody proved to me that it was correct. That was wonderful. Good fun stuff. So I feel really blessed and honored to be able to help you in whatever way I can. Okay? So, at the end of every Dhamma talk, I always share merit. This is one of the things one of my teachers told me that I need to do so that the Buddha's teaching can last for longer.
Wait just a second. Wait just a second, please. Everybody have it? Yeah? Okay.
May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth Devas and Nagas of mighty power share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.